This video is a user guide for the PatrolShift scheduler. So we're going to do a quick overview of what the application is generally for, and then we're going to get into the specifics. So the overview is this application is for managing and using schedules. That's the main purpose. And in order to facilitate that, it has several features that we're going to go over one by one. So as soon as you log in, what you see here is the daily roster, and it just displays all the time slots that are happening on today's date. So you can see their shift, you can see their hours, the position, who's assigned, and then of course the unit, vehicle, radio, and skills. You can sort by hours. You can sort by position. You can sort by unit. You can sort by vehicle, and then radio. So one of the things you can do is you can create custom skills, positions, and shifts. So skills are things that are assignable to a user, as you can see here. Positions as well. They're assignable to a user. So you can create whatever skills, whatever positions you want or that you need as an administrator. And the same thing for for shifts. So let's cover those three features as they're probably the simplest in the application. So in order to manage skills, what you can do is you can create an existing skill and edit its description, or you could add whatever you want here and submit. So when you click on one, you're going to be editing an existing skill. Of course, you can also create a new skill. So let's say we have a new skill code and it's got some description. So we go ahead and submit. And so now we see we've created this new skill. So now this would be available to add onto a user, which we'll cover later. You can, of course, also delete skills. So again, skills, positions, and shifts are very similar in the way that you can create, delete, and edit them. And they're things that are skills and positions are assignable to a user. So now let's look at positions. So you can create whatever you want. You can click here, edit, and so you can edit an existing position if you need to. You can also create a new position. So let's say pilot flies things. So now you're going to have this new pilot position. And of course, you can also delete positions. So those are positions, and you'll see how they're used and how they're associated to a user in a little while. Next up, after manage skills and positions, let's look at manage shifts. So shifts are essentially just a block of time that group time slots. So we can do all the same functionality that we had with skills and positions. We can click on one. We can edit this one's color. We can change its start and end time, or we can delete it. So it's very similar, pretty straightforward how to manage these. Let's get it back to kind of where it was. I think it was a yellow. I forgot. So you can create these as needed for organizing the schedule. So those are some of the simpler features, manage skills, positions, and shifts. Next up, we're going to take a look at managing users. And managing users is also pretty straightforward. So the positions that you create in the previous screens in the manage positions show up here as columns. So any positions you've made is going to be a column. In order to assign a user to one or unassign, you just drag and drop. So these users up here are not assigned to a particular position. They will not be receiving the email notifications. The order of the users in these columns denotes the seniority. So the first user here is going to be getting the first email notification when it bidding for or selecting the time slot is available, and then once they've selected, and then of course the next user going down will be notified via email. So of course we can create a new user. Set their start date. What role do they have inside of the application? So are they going to have administrative manager, regular officer, or read-only role? Let's say Sarah Connor will be an officer. And then you can assign skills. And this list, of course, is based on the skills that you have created as an administrator. So you can add any skills that you want to this user. You can give them a default unit number, a default vehicle number, and a default radio number. Then once we have that, we can go ahead and submit. Now, once the user's created, they have a temporary password. You could share this with them, but there's an easier way of having them access their account. And the best way to do that is to go to the user, edit the user, and then just click the reset password. What this is going to do is it's going to send them an email with a link to reset their password. So let's cancel out of here. We don't want to save any changes. So that's about it for user management. You just assign them to a position, you order them by their seniority, and of course you can edit all of their default for vehicle, unit, radio, and what the role is in the application, assign or remove skills. So now we've covered about 90% of the features, all of these manage options here. So we've looked at skills, positions, shifts, and users. Finally, we're going to look at managing schedules, which is kind of like the main feature of this application. So here we have a lot of example schedules. When you're first starting out, this is, of course, going to be empty. And let's just look at a schedule for an example. So we can click on a schedule to look at that particular schedule. We see its title, its start and end date. We see its selection start and selection end date, whether or not it's active. And of course, we see all the time slots and the assignees to those time slots. So we can click on any of the time slots and change it. For example, if we need to change the assignee, this list will be filtered so that we can only see people that are sergeants on this particular list if we want to change the assignee. We can also do a partial edit, which basically means that I want to do an edit for maybe for the next week, but then I want it to go back to normal. So then you would go ahead and do a partial edit and set the date for when you want this partial edit to take place. So for example, maybe for a week, let's give them the Thursday off. So then we'll say the range of this is 3/31/20 to 6/29. So let's say we wanted to take effect on 3, which is March, and it started on the 29. Let's maybe only for okay, so from the 31st until, let's say, 4/04/12/2020. So this is going to be a partial edit to the time slot, and then we can go ahead and update. It's going to create that partial edit for when the time slot is going to be, is going to have the Thursday off. So just for that, for this new range, it'll go ahead and create that. So So this is kind of what a schedule looks like. But let's take it from the top, from the beginning, like how we start creating these things. So when this is all blank, what I would recommend is maybe starting with a template. So we'll title it template. Um, let's just say it starts on the 1st of July. It doesn't really matter because when we copy this template, we'll actually set the real dates. And then selection start should probably be sometime in June, maybe the week prior. Sure. All right. So now we have this template schedule and we're going to be adding time slots. So time slots, in order to add a time slot to a new schedule, first of all, you pick the position. You can pick an assignee if you already have one in mind, but you don't necessarily need to, since it's a fresh schedule that no one has selected any time slots. The start and end date are going to be copied from the calendar, and then now we can select the start time. So let's say it's 000 to 0800, and then the days that it's going this time slot is for, and then the unit. So we'll create. This is also optional, really, because when a user selects a time slot, it'll fill this with their default information. But if you already have something in mind, you can fill it out, but it's optional. So now we'll go ahead and create the time slot. So now this template schedule has a time slot. Let's go ahead and create 3 more. So this is probably what you would do when you. Oh, so I submit it, so it actually just created it in the database. But what I meant to do was create 3 more time slots. So let's go ahead and create a patrol start and end date coinciding with the calendar. That's fine. Start time. Let's say that, and that, and then this one is going to be for these days. So let's go ahead and create that. Let's create another time slot. Let's make this one for dispatch. And let's say this one starts at 1000 to, let's say, 1500 hours. And it's just a weekend time slot. And we submit. And let's create one more. Let's make it motor. Start time 0800, and then they'll end at, let's say, 1600 hours. And this is for these days. And this one, let's just pretend it's overtime so you can see what that looks like, that visual indication of whether or not it's overtime. So now we have a schedule. We've set our start and end date, selection start time, but this is just going to be a template we're going to use. So as you can imagine, creating all the time slots at first it's going to take a little bit of time, but it's not too difficult. So now what we can do, since we have this template that we've taken our time and created the common time slots that are kind of recurring throughout all the schedules, now we can just copy this. We can give this title, let's say, fourth quarter. An important note for this, it has to be at least 3 characters for the title of the schedule. So let's say now we set our real start and end date. So let's say this one is actually going to be for starting August 1st. Actually, let's set it September 1st. And then it's going to be going, let's say, December 31st. And then the selection start should probably be sometime in August, probably the last week of August. So let's say 23 to 29 of August. So now what we're going to do is we're going to copy all of the time slots that we had created in the template into this new schedule we're creating. Um, so let's go ahead and create that. And of course, we've set different start and end dates, and then all the time slots will also shift accordingly. So here we are. We've created the copy. We see it's got the title, the start and end dates, and now it also has the time slots. If we click on one of these time slots, we see that the start and end dates coincide with this new schedule that we made as a copy. But otherwise, all the information is the same. So to get out of this window, you can click outside of it or click the cancel button. So that's how you would manage your schedules. How I would recommend doing it is creating a template schedule where you take your time to do all the time slots, and then make copies of it with new time ranges, so that you don't have to keep making new schedules and tons of new time slots. And of course, you can customize the copy, so you can create another one, or you can delete an existing one. So there, it's gone. Sorry, that screen is glitchy. I believe it has to do with this screen recording. And then, of course, you can add other time slots. So that's fundamentally how you manage your schedules. So that's about it. So now this of course is what an administrator will be doing. A regular user will not have access to any of these manage options. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that. I'm going to go into users. I'm going to select a user that is assigned to a position. Let's go with Drew Mante. And then I'm going to sign in as them and show you what it looks like from their point of view. So let me log out as root and sign in with that email. For this demo, all the passwords are the same. So now I'm signing in as a user. And of course, the first place I land is the daily roster. This didn't update correctly for some reason. But you'll see that there's a limited amount of things that a regular user can do. They can only go to the daily roster or select time. So they can see the daily roster, and then they can go to select the time slot. So if a schedule is actively bidding and they can actually select a time slot, it'll be here available to select. So these are already assigned actually to this user already, but let's say he wants to pick another one. You would just click on one that's unassigned. It'll show you the information, the hours, the position is for dispatch, which you'll only see time slots for your position. And then the period of the schedule and whether or not it's overtime and the days. And then you can say, all right, sign me up. And once you sign up, if things go through successfully, it'll just go ahead and assign it. And then as a user, you can also click on my settings and see what time slots that you are assigned to. And that is pretty much it for how to use this application.